I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. And my guest host this week is the guy who normally puts this together and will be again this week, executive producer Josh Meeks. I think you've done every job in a TV newsroom now.
Except this. Yeah, this is the first time, so let's go.
First time for everything. Let's go. The Trump administration recently signed an order to bring in 300,000 metric tons of imported ground beef to make grocery prices cheaper.
The move is being questioned by cattle producers who say they're already fighting razor-thin margins against a diminishing cattle herd. We spoke to USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins about the order.
For Louisiana's cattle producers, input costs and a historically low herd are not promising.
We are experiencing some drops in the market. The market has been softening for a while, but especially since the announcement late last week, it's dropped more.
Amelia Kent raises cattle in the Felicianas. She says an order of 300,000 metric tons of imported beef into the United States sends ranchers the wrong message.
The signal coming from the administration towards the farming and ranching community is what I'm most concerned about, not necessarily the actual economics and the resulting impacts.
USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, speaking at an event in Donaldsonville, says the move is to bring short-term relief to grocery prices. She says the administration knows the decision has left ranchers with a sour taste.
I understand the frustration. The president does as well. The president is very focused, the short term on affordability for American moms and dads, but for the long term, there is no one who is more committed to American agriculture and to American farmers and ranchers than President Trump.
Rollins says that 300,000 metric tons is just a fraction of the total amount of beef consumed in the U.S., which she says is at a record high.
Every single year, Americans consume about 13 million metric tons of beef, 13 million metric tons. Every single year, we raise about 10 to 11 million of that 13 million metric tons, and we import between 2 and 3 million metric tons on average every year.
Kent agrees that 300,000 won't move the needle economically, but says it sets a dangerous precedent as ranchers navigate a balancing act with other significant threats to the nation's herd.
The economic fundamentals will not change or be impacted because of these 300,000 tons of beef coming in. We still are in a contraction part of our cycle. The beef cycle tends to be about 10-ish years. Like the secretary mentioned, numbers came out showing heifer retention is just starting, but that still means you're 3 years away from that additional production entering our supply chain.
I stand here to say on behalf of the president, on behalf of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, on behalf of our entire cabinet, there will never be a team that is more in the corner of our American farmers and ranchers than this team has been and will continue to be.
The American Farm Bureau Federation says that herd rebuilding is happening in the country, but it remains very fragile. They're concerned that the timing of this action could discourage rebuilding that's critically needed, as we're about to be in the selling period where ranchers are weighing the options of expanding their herds.
Any movement on the 2026 Farm Bill will have to wait until after the summer recess. That's according to Senate Ag Committee Chairman John Bozeman. Senators Mitch McConnell and Tommy Tuberville were absent during the committee markup of the bill. That meant that Senate Republicans did not have a majority, and a vote along party lines would have prevented the bill from going to the full Senate. Bozeman recessed the committee and says he plans to bring the measure back before the committee when the Senate returns the week of September 14th.
Fuel and fertilizer are two of the most prohibitive costs in farming right now. A new plant in Ascension Parish could alleviate at least one of those headaches. Crews broke ground on CF Industries' new Blue Point 1 ammonia plant in Donaldsonville. When production starts in 2029, the plant will be the largest producer in the world, providing 1.4 million tons of ammonia annually. That will hopefully offset the roughly 20 million tons of imported fertilizer coming into the U.S.
You know, this past year with lack of competitiveness and supplies issues with the fertilizer, the producers, their fertilizer prices more than doubled this spring, and it really impacted their production costs going into the 2026 season. And those prices have subsided some, but at the same time, they still at some historical highs from a seasonal standpoint, and opportunities like this and more domestic production from folks like CF Industries is going to put more domestic supply in our fertilizer system and less reliant of importing fertilizer for our producers, and hopefully we can stabilize those markets.
CF Industries says there are nearly 4,000 construction jobs as the plant goes up, but once it's in operation, there will only be about 100 permanent jobs on site. Down the river in Wagaman, CHS and OCP North America announced a joint venture that would produce more than 1 million metric tons of phosphate-based fertilizer annually. Construction is expected to take about 2 years. With planting wrapping up and harvest about to begin, it's a busy time in sugarcane fields across Louisiana.
As TWILA's Neil Melanson tells us, a relatively new pest, the pasture mealybug, is causing problems in those fields, and work continues to stop this pest from spreading.
Sugarcane planting is going strong in South Louisiana. In fact, it's just about wrapped up. Despite some weather concerns, it's more than 3/4 done, according to sugarcane farmer Mike Melanson.
Folks might have to switch from whole stalk to billet planting, which is something that's doable if need be. But it's still early. It's still August, so I would think we're fairly advanced for the year. We've had quite a bit of cane go down with the Friday storms, and probably yesterday as well on Monday. So it's going to change the rate, but I think for the most part, I would say the industry is 75% planted.
The storms that downed this cane are an ironic twist after a summer that's been mostly hot and dry, especially during cane's grand growth stage.
We got nice rain over the weekend. Maybe 10 days earlier it would have been a little bit more timely, but some areas have been dry also. The western area, west of me, it's west of the Acadian area is a little drier.
The lodge cane is also making it more difficult to scout fields for the pasture mealybug, which has been a plague this year. Crop consultant Brett Barrick says it's hard to get into these areas and even harder to know what's going on underneath.
As you can imagine, it's difficult to walk in and to get a good visual picture in your mind and be able to pull leaves. I mean, we're tripping all over ourselves. Hey, it is part of the job, but it just slows us down. The mealybug has already slowed down our weekly progress going through our sugarcane field.
Barrick says he knows the bugs are out there because yellowing like this is a telltale sign. Recently, the industry got an emergency approval for insecticide not normally used on cane. Back at Mike Melanson's fields, he's already sprayed 3 times this year, hoping the cost doesn't outweigh the potential damage these bugs could cause.
We're just throwing darts now. We're doing everything we think is the right thing to do. Our research and consultants are guiding us, but there's the unknowns. I mean, we still don't know what the effect of this crop is going to be. Is it going to affect our sugar content even in fields that doesn't show any damage? That's an unknown as well.
The pasture mealybug doesn't just represent a threat to Louisiana sugarcane's investment. The planting you see going on behind me is the hope for not just for next crop, but for the next season and the industry as a whole. Reporting from Breaux Bridge, I'm Neil Melanson.
Sugarcane planting wraps up in the next week or so for most growers. Harvest begins in mid-September and can last until the middle of January.
As we record this, burn bans are now active in 24 parishes, putting pressure on farmers and ranchers as summer winds down. Nearly half the state was in moderate drought this week, with conditions expected to expand as hot, dry weather continues. The lack of rain is already affecting pastures and freshwater resources, while livestock producers watch forage conditions closely. For crops, the timing is a mixed bag. Dry weather can help harvest move along, but extended dryness could create problems for crops still in the field.
Years of drought, damage from hurricanes, and slow housing starts have made for a tough time for Louisiana's forestry industry. That said, there was an overarching positive theme for the 79th annual Louisiana Forestry Association convention held in Lake Charles. More than 500 foresters, landowners, and loggers made their way to the Golden Nugget. It was during the opening session of the meeting that Forest Consulting CEO Brooks Mendel gave his thoughts on the future of the forestry industry. Mendel pointed out that the closure of older sawmills were more a factor of efficiency, that new ones could handle more timber than the old, and thus not necessarily a bad thing. Louisiana Forestry Association Executive Director Buck Vandersteen expanded on that optimism.
The future of forestry is great because our universities are finding new uses of material. There's investors out there that are wanting to come to Louisiana to utilize our forest resource to make products, transportation fuels, aviation fuels, new building products, mass panel products, cross-laminated timber, all of these things to satisfy a building need, a need for new homes and demand for forest products.
Oak Valley Ranch received the honor of Tree Farmer of the Year. Owners Mark and Nikki Johnson bought the ranch 8 years ago. Still to come on TWILA, we go feasting on agriculture.
We didn't get to ride in Macy Rushing's famous broken door feed truck, but we did get to try her beef stew. Stay with us.
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
Welcome to Feasting on Agriculture. I'm Allie Shipley. It's September, which means all the kids are back in school, and moms who are busy are even busier, balancing the school schedules and afternoon activities and finding time to also feed all of the kids, which is exactly why we're in Ethel, Louisiana today. You may remember Macy Rushing from some of the profiles we've done on her feed truck and how she manages her cattle farm and how she feeds the cows. But today we're going to see how she feeds her family.
Feasting on Agriculture is brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, Beef, it's what's for dinner, and by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, think rice.
This is Bella.
Hi, Bella girl.
This was our first Brahma and her first show calf.
No, you're gonna keep her forever?
Yes.
Always wanted to show cows.
She's good to our Ida. We were wanting to get into cattle. We just didn't know where to start. And so we went to LeBlanc's Dairy in Kentwood, and he was like, oh, I said, look at that baby laying right there. He said, oh, you can have it, it's gonna die. And we knew nothing.
Was this the spot before the farm dream?
We knew nothing. We would literally YouTube or go to Tractor Supply and try to scope out who looks like they know something about cows. And we would just bombard them and be like, hey, we got this calf. And they're like, ma'am, I don't know nothing. Like,
what was the telltale sign of somebody that looked like they knew what they were talking about?
Of course, we were just like your average Wranglers and a cowboy hat.
Stereotypical.
Yeah, just like,
as Macy is never in Wranglers or a cowboy hat.
Absolutely. That's the funny thing is when people, they're like, oh my gosh, I saw you on TikTok, or oh, I didn't know you had that. You don't dress the part. And I'm like, I know, I thought there was a part, and there's actually not a part.
Tell us what your life is like as a ranching mom.
So about 6:30, like I'm up and moving, depending on how much I prep the night before between lunches and snack and school clothes laying out. And once I drop them off, I normally leave from there and go to the farm. If there's a day that I don't have to go to the farm, I'm still riding around. I'm checking our mama cows. I'm checking waters up front. And then I'm tackling normal farm routines outside of the farm. Running to the co-op, running to the bank. Even if I'm not at the farm, I'm still at the farm. And the farm duties don't stop just because I may have a day off. There's really no day off in farming.
Do the kids miss it when you're at home? Like when they're at school and do they ask, what happened on the farm today?
I have to lie, like my youngest will go through carpool and he's like, you promise you're not going to the farm today? I said, dude, I'm not going to the farm today because if I say I'm going to the farm, he won't get out. Because he wants to go with me every single day. And a lot of the times we'll go on the weekends. They love the weekends there. Obviously they miss the farm when school's in session, but thankfully they still get a little piece of it at home.
You weren't raised on a farm. What do you think that provides your kids that you didn't necessarily get? Why did you want to give your kids this way of life?
Yeah, I think it's so neat that Matthew and I, we both grew up in the city, completely different backgrounds, sports and schools, and then we'll come together in like an evening where we're sitting on the back porch and the kids are, one's riding a pony, one's walking a show calf, and one's doing her gymnastics outside. Either way, like we're giving them a childhood that we never got to experience. When we go to these cattle shows, Matthew and I say all the time, like, man, I wish we grew up doing this, you know?
What is your ideal perfect day balancing being a mom and a rancher? Like what does that perfect blended day look like in both of those roles married together?
Obviously getting the kids in the car on time, right?
Everybody's good day starts.
Everybody has a shoe, the shoe's on, teeth, please brush your teeth. Lord knows you don't need to
setting the bar really high.
I mean, come on. And once I drop them off safely at school, I make it to the farm. At that point, I'm filling up the feed truck, filling up buckets for weaning pens. As I feed, I'm checking fences. I'm looking for sick calves. An ideal perfect day is no sick calves. I'm dealing with high risk, lightweight calves. It's going to happen here and there. If everything's smooth and good, I stay there till carpool pretty much. So at that point, I'm checking how much feed we have to see if I need to call the co-op because we get feed weekly, if not more. I'm checking medicine supplies. If I have a free hour, I need to use it. Some people think, oh, you get to rest a lot because no, there's no resting. Getting back home, I make Ida go check her cow's waters. That is when I'll probably finally enter the house and unpack lunch boxes and school stuff. And honestly, on a beautiful day, I tell them to go outside.
Yeah.
I feel like the homework can wait some days, you know?
You feel like you can't be everything to everybody all the time, and taking care of cows while your kids are at school is not a break in any way. They're living, breathing organisms, and that's hard work. How do you find that balance of, again, being a mom at home into your herd?
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle. There's some days where I'm calling the secretary and saying, you got to hold them for me. I'm coming, or I'm asking another mom friend to grab them for me because something did go wrong, or there is a sick calf that I'm having to tend to. But I also think the beautiful part of it is the lessons that it's teaching my kids. Like when they come to the farm with me and they see a bad day and then they see a good day, when I get to them, I feel like they can see what kind of day I had on my face, right? But they see what I'm doing behind the scenes where they know I'm not just out doing whatever. I'm working hard. When we load up, they love to watch them load in the trailer, and they go, and we always pray over the trailer for safe travels to make it to its next stop. But they know that it's for something, and even though they're young, but they live it. When I come and pick them up and they see the sweat, stain, dirt, I'm not the cute mom rolling through carpool, right? They know what I've been doing all day, and on long days when they know that someone else is picking them up, Ida will always say, I figured it was something about the farm and I prayed that everything was okay, you know, but I'm just thankful that they get it and they love the life that we're building, and so thankfully they understand.
Macy, I know we've talked a lot about your perfect day here today, and it didn't include the kitchen before carpool, but we're overhauling it all and we're going to ask you to do that. So stay with us, where after the break we're going to head into Macy's kitchen and cook some beef stew with quite the twist. Welcome back to Feasting on Agriculture. We are now inside Macy's house for the first time, so thanks for letting us in the kitchen. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay, so what are we cooking? What's for dinner in the Rushing household?
The kids voted, and it is beef stew with sweet potatoes, and it is one of our favorites that my father-in-law always cooked me, so I'm happy to share it with y'all.
Okay, so what is the first step to this beef stew?
We're gonna cut up an onion, we're gonna peel and dice up a sweet potato, and I was gonna peel this while you cut this.
I can do that. Dice it?
Yeah. My father-in-law and I share a major love for sweet potatoes. So then one day he invited us over and he was like, I have a surprise. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I did sweet potatoes instead of regular potatoes. And now it's like,
so do y'all ever do regular potatoes, or it's strictly sweet potatoes?
No, it is strictly sweet potatoes.
Yes. This is truly a Louisiana dish.
Yes.
When we were talking about what to cook and asking you if we could do this, the whole idea was like something easy, because ain't nobody got time, especially during the school year, to cook something very extravagant, especially when you're also feeding cows back there and working. It's just hard.
Yeah, no, I totally have a rule. If I read a recipe and it has like over 7 ingredients, and it's just too much, honestly, at that point. I'm a very dump and go crock pot. We are crock potting it easily twice a week just because. But if I have an evening to where I do have a couple hours, this is one of our favorite recipes.
I love how they're like a simple recipe and it starts with mincing garlic. And it's like, I'm out. That's not easy.
I'm out.
It's not easy. Do the kids usually help cook?
Yes, they love, like, especially my oldest, it's all hands on deck. They like to cut, which is why the kid-friendly knives come in great.
Mine's only 2, and she still wants to help. She's like, we're on the counter cooking. She's like, I help, but it's really just inconvenient. I do these in the air fryer all the time. Is that so like that? We've diced the sweet potato, we've diced the onion. While the oil's heating up, what do we do next?
So now we are going to flour our meat. This is really gonna like help make the roux. And
we were clearly out looking at y'all's beef cattle, but I can tell by the packaging this is probably not y'all's.
We still buy from the grocery store, even though we raise beef. We support local. We go to the local grocery store, and they have great selection.
I think that's a good tidbit. I mean, I think there's such a farm-to-table movement, which I think is so great in supporting all of our local producers, but the meat at the grocery store is farm-to-table too. It just takes a few extra stops.
Absolutely. So we're gonna add a little bit of flour. This is just boneless beef, like stew meat.
I'm gonna let Macy batter it. I don't want to spill flour all over your kitchen.
Well, I kind of already did. So. Oh, shoot. Shoot. Now we're gonna let it simmer in there and kind of stir it around. We're gonna put an onion on top and let it be and let it cook down.
We're dumping and going.
Yeah. I want it all brown. Honestly, when it looks the worst is when you're ready to boogie. Now we are gonna add in our 2 cans of peas, carrots sliced, and 2 cans of corn.
So do we keep the juice of the cans, or are we draining it, or it's all?
No, everything's going in. We need all the flavor. I call it a passer-buyer.
Have you ever put this recipe on your TikTok?
No, they only like it when I feed cows, not my kids.
We're gonna have to collab on this. Maybe now you're gonna be feeding humans and cows.
After you add in all your cans, you kind of want to get it to a boil, so I'll bump it up between medium and high and just let that kind of simmer.
So we covered it and we're waiting for it to get to a boil, and then we're gonna dump the sweet potatoes in. And then
it just kind of chills.
I'm a rice pot girl, so you're not. That's what we were just talking about.
Yes.
I do mine in a rice cooker. Again, I'm a set it and forget it. But Macy is a better mom and a better cook than I am, and she's doing it on the stove.
But this is pretty easy too, because it's one of those ones where you just, once you get it to a boil, you drop it down, you cover it, and in 5 minutes you have rice. You know, with the sweet potatoes.
Let's do it. And we just put all the sweet potatoes in?
Yeah. I'm not really stirring it, and I want a lot of the liquid to kind of cook out. Like all the extra liquid. And it'll get down to that flour, and then the roux will thicken. I'm just adding a little something while it simmers and those sweet potatoes cook. I feel like you just measure with your heart, however much you like it seasoned, really just some Tony's and salt. I'll taste it in a little bit. I'll taste like the juice of it and see how well it's seasoned, and then again, a passer-buyer. Do a little something and keep on moving.
Okay, so we're passing by.
Yeah, this is a touch and go, as most pilots would say. And we are now checking the sweet potatoes to see if they're soft. And if they are, I'm gonna let a little bit of the liquid boil out and get the roux a little bit thicker, and she will be ready to serve over rice.
So when the sweet potatoes are soft, we're dropping down the temperature.
Yep, really just a preference on if you like it a little bit runnier or a little thicker roux. Other than that, it is seasoned and ready to go. Toucher goes, yeah, passer-buyers.
It smells so good. Okay, so the rice is done cooking. I think it's time to taste the final product, right?
Yeah, you ready?
Let's do it. All right. I feel like the sweet potatoes is the secret ingredient to this.
You need a little bit of meat, a sweet potato, and a little rice. Well, maybe a little bit of everything. Are we gonna cheers?
Sure.
Ready?
Cheers. This is so good. Well, we're not gonna sit here and let the cameras watch us devour all of this because it's so good that we're really about to dig in. But thank you so much for having us in your kitchen today and showing us how you feed this side of your operation. Yeah. We really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Macy has been kind enough to share this secret family recipe with us. So if you're interested in seeing that full recipe, we'll be sure to link it on our website. We'll link that or some of our past stories we've done with Macy, as well as her TikTok handle. So just be sure to visit twilatv.org. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Feasting on Agriculture.
Feasting on Agriculture was brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, Beef, it's what's for dinner, and by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board. Think rice.
So, you know those alignment charts where you have like lawful good, lawful evil, et cetera, et cetera?
Tell me you play Dungeons & Dragons without telling me you play Dungeons & Dragons. Go on.
Macy Rushing is the embodiment of chaotic good.
Okay, I could see that. I really could, because like she's kind of all over the place, whatever in the ends justify the means, that sort of thing.
Absolutely, but always a great time at the Rushing household.
She's a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Josh. That does it for this edition of TWILA. Join us for an encore episode next week. That's because somebody is going to Alaska and doesn't want to edit a show while he's on a ship.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you know when we put out new content.
Good job on your first anchoring. That does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us right here again next week.